The city of Detroit was founded as a French trading post in 1701. A trading post meant a place where Europeans and Native Americans could exchange goods and services for other goods or currency. Think of a trading post like a big mall. You go and exchange money for toys, clothes, food, etc. The name of the city of Detroit comes from the French word for strait. A strait is similar to a river and connects two larger bodies of water. The Detroit River connects Lake Huron to Lake Erie, both of which are Great Lakes. In 1701, French military officer Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac, along with many other Frenchmen, founded a Roman Catholic church. At this time, Detroit was under the rule of King Louis XIV, the French king. In order to convince people to move to Detroit, the French gave away land for free, and within a matter of years, over 800 people had moved to Detroit. They also built a military fort called Fort Detroit in the city. Because of the large number of people, close access to the Detroit River, and the military post, the British wanted to control the city of Detroit. In the year 1760, the British overtook the city. Before the French or British ever showed up in Detroit, Native Americans were currently living within the area of the city. A Native American leader named Chief Pontiac of the Native American tribe called the Ottawa tried to fight the British and keep Detroit under Ottawa control, but he and his people were unsuccessful. During the American Revolution, the time when the United States fought to become its own country and not part of Great Britain, both sides fought hard for the city. Ultimately, in 1783, Detroit was under the control of the United States of America. In the year 1805, a fire destroyed nearly all of the city of Detroit. The government at that time created a new roadway system and began to rebuild the city. The man mostly in charge of the new roads was named Augustus Woodward, and there is a road nearby here called Woodward named after him still today. At this time in history, the Civil War had not yet occurred, and the South had slaves on their farms and plantations. Detroit was a key spot in helping slaves escape to freedom because it is located so closely to Canada. The slaves secretly traveled all the way from the South to Detroit when they were then helped across the border to be free in Canada. Lots of people from the city of Detroit fought in the American Civil War to get the southern states to end slavery. Many people died, and the president at that time, Abraham Lincoln, was so grateful to all the Detroiters who fought. They were led by Lieutenant Ulysses S. Grant, who later became a U.S. president. In the late 1800s, Detroit became known for its development as a city and attracted many wealthy people to come live in the city. Shopping centers started to be built along with mansions that housed wealthy people who threw fancy parties. Many new churches were built as well, so all the wealthy people had a place to worship. Because this area was becoming increasingly popular, many immigrants were leaving their home countries to come live in Detroit. Irishmen, Italians, and Greeks were just a few of the people who began to populate the city. In the early 1900s, Henry Ford built his first automobile right outside of Detroit. Other companies, such as General Motors and Chrysler, began to build automobiles in Detroit as well. Because so many automobiles were being produced and were in high demand, lots of job opportunities started to emerge. People flocked from all over to live in Detroit and work in a factory making automobiles. In the 1900s, the city of Detroit flourished. New buildings and mansions appeared each day, and the culture began to rise. Many museums, like the Detroit Institute of Arts, and theaters, such as the Fox Theater, which still stand today, were built as well. By 1930, the population of Detroit was up to 1.5 million people. In the 1940s, World War II brought with it much change for the city. The factories that once produced automobiles now produce tanks that could be used in the war in Europe. In more recent years, the wealthy crowds that once populated the city have moved further into the suburbs, decreasing the population of the city and causing it to be more run down and not as nicely kept up as it once was. But that does not mean the city is dead. Currently, there are many businesses that keep headquarters in Detroit, including General Motors in the iconic Renaissance Center. There are many stadiums where the Detroit Tigers, Lions, and Red Wings continue to have successful seasons. There's a beautiful walkway along the Detroit River for people to bike, run, or just relax and enjoy the view. New restaurants are finding success, and one can go to Detroit to see a number of different types of concerts and shows. The Charles Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit is the biggest museum of its kind in the entire country. The Detroit Institute of Arts has paintings completed by some of the best artists in history. Each year, thousands flock to the city for its iconic Thanksgiving Day Parade as well as its St. Patrick's Day Parade and 4th of July fireworks. The Downtown Hoedown held in Hart Plaza is the largest free country music festival in the nation. The Detroit Medical Center is home to some of the best doctors in the world as well as 2 prestigious medical schools. All in all, Detroit is a city all its own. It's come a long way from its first settlement by the French, and many believed it reached its peak during the 1900s. But the city is still here, and with new and exciting things happening each and every day. A lot has changed in the past. I bet more changes are still to come in the future.